you've engaged also with Charles Taylor's work, A Secular Age, where he talks about metanarratives, and these are grand stories that can become dominant at different times, and also can very much influence the way we look at things. What would you say are the dominant meta-narratives in the academy today?
I think there are two. The dominant meta-narratives in the academy are, number one, that atheism is a default position. And it's ridiculous, but it has simply become the norm, and you're fighting against that all the time. And secondly, the idea that one is able to invoke God in any explanatory capacity is simply a vestige of a bygone age. I think Taylor is saying we can understand how these processes happened, but we are now locked into a situation where there are certain controlling narratives which lie beyond challenge. To challenge them is not seen as a mark of potential irrationality on the meta-narrative's part, it's seen as a sign of irrationality on the part of the person who challenges them. And so there are really serious things going on here, and maybe we have to go back to Thomas Kuhn, this idea of a paradigm shift whereby people suddenly collectively realize, hey, we used to think this is right, but it doesn't make sense at all. We've got to break this stranglehold and move on to something better. We need to do that.
One kind of sub-narrative is the narrative of science and religion being predominantly one of conflict. What would be your take on the conflict metaphor?
Well, I think we need to agree that at times in the past and the present, some scientists and some religious people have disagreed. What I object to very strongly is this being made into a meta-narrative. It's in effect a subsection of a much bigger story. The bigger story is that science and religion are very complex entities, that our understanding of what each constitutes has changed over time. And sure, there are areas of conflict, particularly where science starts to become religious or religion starts to become scientific. There are all kinds of possibilities for conflict. But the dominant narrative is not that. The dominant narrative is of interesting engagement, maybe even productive engagement. I would say a narrative of enrichment. And I object very strongly to people like Richard Dawkins and above all Christopher Hitchens, who in effect say science and religion are locked into permanent conflict by their very natures. There's no historical evidence for that. And the new atheism has been very unwise. It's not simply used the conflict thesis as a kind of informing perspective on their ideas. They've made it the basis of their views. And historians would now say, look, if there's any one myth about science and religion, it's that they're permanently in conflict. So the new atheism has painted itself into a corner, I'm afraid. And that's just their problem.